So people will be coming in here in just a bit. So thanks for joining us today, everyone. I'm going to go ahead. Like I said, I hit the record button. So we're going to post the recording to our YouTube page for anyone who wants to revisit this session or for anyone who isn't able to attend. I'm Amy Loudermilk, the program manager for Arts Build. And to learn more about the shared services that we offer our community arts partners, please take a look at the shared services portion of our website. And I'm going to post that here in the chat so that you can visit that if you've not done so. I like I said, I just posted it in the chat, but Arts Build currently facilitates these services for our community arts partners, the recipients of our mission support grants. And so I just started using the email list that we have for this. So if for some reason you didn't receive my email on Tuesday afternoon, feel free to reach out to me. I'm just amy@artsbuild.com, so I can add you to that email list if you are indeed one of our community arts partners who receives those mission support grants. Today we have our first shared services presentation on social media. After today, we'll visit with Colleen Miller on the last Thursday of every month to check in about social media and get some advice and tutorials from Colleen. That also means that we have a new recurring schedule with some of our other shared services consultants. So we're going to hear from our friends at HR Biz on the second Thursday of the month and Sky Strategies on the third Thursday of the month. So beginning on January 14th, that's when we'll hear from HR Biz Solutions and start that new schedule. HR Biz Solutions handles HR, bookkeeping, and training. Then on January 21st, that starts our recurring sessions with Sky Strategies on the third Thursday of every month. They talk to us about fund development and grant writing. And then we'll meet with Colleen again on January 28th for some more social media tutoring. With that said, I would like to hand the microphone over to Miss Colleen Miller, who's bringing us some lessons that we all should have learned from social media from the dreaded 2020. So with that, take it away, Colleen.
Ooh, sorry, I switched before. So hello, I'm Colleen Miller, and I'm going to talk to you today about social media lessons from 2020. I'll introduce myself a little bit in a minute, and then ask all of you to introduce yourselves as well. So 2020 forced us to change our routines and the way we connect and communicate with one another, just to say the least. It also changed how we use our digital presence, social media, websites, search engines. So today we're going to talk about what and how these 2020 lessons will help you adapt in 2021, because things are likely to remain pretty similar, at least for the first half. So my name is Colleen Miller, and I have 7 years of experience serving in digital and public relations communications roles for offices of elected officials, public works departments, nonprofit organizations involved in democracy and coalition building work, as well as some private businesses. So let's move into you all. Let's see. I'm going to go and call on people just as they show up in my screen, if that's okay. So if I miss someone, I'll ask you in the end. So just tell me your first name, the business and the organization that you are here representing. It could be yourself. And what do you do? What does your organization do? So I'll start with Audrey Ramsey, if you don't mind.
Hi, yes, my name is Audrey Ramsey, and actually I just returned home to Chattanooga from Nashville. Chattanooga is my hometown, and I've been here for about 2 years now, so I'm getting my feet wet. I classify myself as retired, and I'm also a community advocate as well as a voter rights advocate. So I'm in the process of now serving as the co-chair of the Hamilton County Voters Coalition.
Okay,
Thank
Nicole.
you.
Yeah, of course. It's nice to meet you, and I'd love to connect with you about your work in the voting rights world. It's something I'm in tune with here, and all over the country. So, Nicole,
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Coleman. I am representing Chattanooga Girls Rock. I've been marketing chair and moved into the digital content coordinator position. I've been marketing chair for the past 2.5 years. So what we do is we use social justice awareness for teenagers. So we focus on the 10 to 17 age group. We do that through music education, performance, and social justice awareness to help our tweens and teens build confidence. And we provide a safe space for youth, particularly girls and non-binary youth. So I'm here. I have the rest of my digital content team. So I'm here representing Chattanooga Girls Rock.
awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine Warren.
Hi, this is Kate Warren with Art 120, and my organization focuses on providing access, cultural and arts access to our population, serving primarily Chattanooga and connecting with other communities between here and 120-mile radius. Our goal is to use art as a catalyst to engage, teach, and inspire. Primarily youth is our focus, but we also reach adults through free public art events.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Tegan O'Keefe. We'll try someone else. They're switching on my screen, so that does not make my life easier.
Evelyn?
Evelyn, I'm sorry.
No, it's Ellen. Evelyn. I'm with Art Gallery. We are a nonprofit art gallery for homeless and other non-traditional artists. We offer hope and opportunity through art, and we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Awesome. It's a wonderful accomplishment. Jim Veenstra. I'm going to apologize for the pronunciation of names.
Hi, I represent Sound of Tennessee in Cleveland, Tennessee, the men's a cappella chorus. We've been meeting live for the last 2 months, twice a month in a very large space using specially designed chorus masks. Then our final practice is this Tuesday. If anybody's interested, just connect with soundof10.org and we'll connect you with our live streaming as well as how to get involved in a live practice. In addition, I also represent Ocoee Theater in Cleveland, Bradley County, and I will be auditioning this weekend for a production of the comedy Greater Tuna. And it's a play with only 2 men each playing about 10 different characters. So it is designed to be socially distant. We'll be performing in February at the Museum Center in Cleveland. And look forward to, if you're interested in auditioning, look at the Facebook page, Ocoee Theater. I'll put this information in the chat.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure that sounds like a very interesting and awesome way to conduct, the theater and live performances in the time of COVID. And that's very special. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome. Who do we have? Keely Crew.
That's right. I'm Keely Crew, and we own a commercial art gallery, Area 61, and represent over 20 local artists for a place to show and sell their work, helping them sustain their career as an artist. And I advocate for local artists every chance I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Harlan Lovestone.
Hi, yes. My name is Harlan, of course, and I'm a visual artist, also an independent K through 12 educator. And I have an organization that I started sort of called the Art House Project. I started it in Greenville, actually, South Carolina. Was trying to sort of start like basically a maker space community center. Didn't quite get off the ground, but I kind of relocated here over a year ago, and I'm trying to like refocus it in many ways, especially with the COVID. And I guess one of the things I'm trying to do now is just sort of integrate it with more education programs and exhibitions, which I was kind of doing before, but also I had the idea to do sort of a tiny house village, sort of locally, maybe just outside of the city. I think someone was trying to do it here a few years ago. I don't know what happened with it. There's not a lot of information or whatever, but I can leave the link there. But basically, I guess I'm sort of about just, promoting my art and doing art projects in different kinds of ways, and also doing art for good. And I'll just leave a link for what I'm doing here currently in the chat room.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to try one more time with Tegan O'Keefe. I know I called on you before. I don't know. And that's okay if.
Are you talking to me? Sorry, I'm actually working down in the studio right now and just listening in. I missed a lot of what was happening.
Oh, that's okay. I was just asking for introductions. That's all.
I was talking here. Sorry, Portia.
That's all right.
Hey, I'm Joy Key. I'm down in Scenic City Clay Arts. I'm working in the studio today, so just listening in.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know if I've missed someone. Please unmute yourself and just introduce. And if not, we'll move forward.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm Julie Van Valkenburg. I'm marketing director at the Chattanooga Theater Center. I like to say that we foster human connection through the theater arts among children and teachers and volunteers and performers and backstage volunteers and patrons. We've been around since 1923, and we're one of the largest community theaters in the South.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much for being here with us today. If I've missed someone, I apologize. Introduce yourself in the chat so that I know just, who's here. It's my first webinar with ArtsBuild, and let's get started. Okay. So we're going to talk about 5 main topics today. How 2020 and the pandemic changed the way social media is used. We're going to talk about some new platforms, about Facebook advertising and how that took a hit and how it affects organizations, how social media became a tool to generate social awareness, and how platforms are cracking down on the spread of misinformation and disinformation. So, fact. More people are using social media than ever before. 2020 and the pandemic have created such a dramatic shift in the use of social media, meaning it's even more used than previous for like all the reasons that we know about 2020. So if your organization doesn't have a presence, you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice because you're missing this vital connection to people. And this year specifically, it's one of the very few ways we have to connect with each other. So every year, a new social media platform emerges and takes over the scene for a little while. But there's a reason there are the classics and that they've been around for more than a year. For 2020, the new platform really that emerged and became popular was TikTok. And it's been named the social media sensation of lockdown because it's a perfect, anecdote for boredom that we're all feeling stuck inside and in need of some lighthearted fun. It doesn't mean though that it's right for everyone. So, if you don't have a already well-made website and your social media posting isn't already regular on other social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, if you might have those, adding another, no matter how fashionable and cool and you may feel like you need to get in on the trend, it's just not right for everyone, and it's not necessarily going to help you in your business and finding the connections. It's also important to understand that the audience that are using some of these new things, especially the one this year, TikTok, may not be the audience that you're trying to engage with. Specifically, TikTok is 25 to 16-year-olds, and maybe that's just not right for you. According to some research that's actually been done by Hootsuite, some recent research, most social media users are on multiple platforms. So you don't have to be everywhere in order to reach your audience, but you should choose those, like we just talked about, based on your audience. And social media users are growing. The number has increased by 453 million since last year. So we're up to 4.14 billion. Additionally, more people have cell phones and they have access to the internet. Obviously for 2020, that's it's clear for the reasons why. Still true. The most visited websites in the last year have been Facebook, Google, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And Facebook remains number one at the top of that list. And even if someone has an Instagram, the research says that they're also still on Facebook. So Facebook remains, at the top, really followed by YouTube and then Instagram. So paid advertising is not a substitute for good organic content. And this year is a really true statement for that, because at the start of 2020 and towards the election on November 3rd, Facebook actually banned political ads. And it's not been totally decided yet, but they're still thinking about making that ban permanent. Facebook has also given users, individual personal users like myself and you all, the power to turn off political ads that they might be served if they don't want to see them. In addition, companies running ads for political or social reasons now need to go through a much more in-depth additional approval process. I know that some of the organizations I work with, this can be kind of tough, and some ads really just don't make it through this process. So it's not as easy as it once was. So really, if you're a nonprofit or you represent a social or political cause, you should be prepared to jump through some extra hoops to maintain advertising on the Facebook platform, which is really where it is. And because Facebook owns Instagram, that affects those ads being converted over to Instagram as well. So moral of the story is that organic social media is really used to build yourself and your business and your organization a community of loyal followers and customers through posting relevant content to that, and then interacting with those who interact with your brand. So that's all really organically done. And should the platforms make a choice to make ad buying even more difficult or impossible, you'll really only have this organic posting to rely on. So it's really, really key. So what 2020 additionally has taught us about brands and social awareness. Taking a public stand on issues is good. It's especially good if the brand can demonstrate a positive impact on people's lives. So let's talk a little bit more about that. In 2020, it wasn't good enough, and it's not good enough for a major brand like, for example, Nike or Walmart, to just post to social media that they're thinking of frontline workers and they support the government sending relief to Americans. They had to actionably show it. So, the companies that took decisive action, like donating to frontline workers, or we've seen a lot. I know Chattanooga Whiskey, a local company, pivoted to make hand sanitizer or produce personal protective equipment, were commended for serving their communities, not just their shareholders. And importantly, the brands that sprung into action were rewarded with positive customer sentiment. So an example that I really love, mostly because I'm from, up north, is Ben & Jerry's. If you love their ice cream like I do, you'll see that they really took a social stand this year with not just the pandemic, but the racial divide that was happening in our country. And it's very evident, their stand and what they're doing on their social media. And, Walmart, for all it is, they've demonstrated that giving bonuses and giving, extra money during this time off and really working hard to make sure that their frontline workers were supported. So let's talk about that a little bit more. In this recent research that Hootsuite has done, brands that demonstrated a positive impact on people's lives grew 2.5 times more than brands with a low impact. They have happier employees. In a survey, 9 in 10 employees at those organizations said they would take a pay cut because of this more meaningful work. And oddly, these organizations outperform in the stock market by 134% this year. Some things to be in consideration with regard to this. Brand actions cannot be treated like a marketing campaign. Consumers are going to see right through a brand that tries to jump on the bandwagon of a popular cause just to be a part of the conversation. It's pretty key to be authentic. And if you're trying to figure out, if this is right for you, if, taking a stand publicly on an issue is right for you or your organization, listen to your current audience and they'll tell you what causes they care about. So that's really important. And, if you have employees, I prefer to call them teammates, but they can help advocate and amplify your content. So if it works for you, provide your team with a selection of content for them to choose from that they can share on their professional channels like LinkedIn. Your team is a really important piece to make sure that, they're happy, but also feeling like they're connected and they're working for an organization that really does take a stand if that's what you do. Oh, this is a big one this year. I was working on a project that was all about the spread of misinformation online this year. So I didn't realize it was so prevalent until I joined onto that project. But so because of that, platforms are cracking down on the spread of misinformation on social media. So the first half of the year, let's just take a pause and talk about 2020 for a second. We're in the middle of an election year. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat to make sure I will address these. I think at the end, I want to make sure I do. So 2020, we're in the middle of an election year. We have a pandemic. We have an economic roller coaster on our hands and a movement to try to bring racial awareness to racial divides in our country is all happening. In other words, this year is brimming with heated opinions and information And social media has been faced with both praise and criticism for their handling of misinformation and fake accounts with regards to this. We've seen this year platforms add labels to tweets and on Facebook to the various posts. So, what does this mean for you and your organization? Um, Now more than ever, it's important to maintain your authenticity, and accuracy is crucial to building and keeping trust with your audience on social media. It doesn't really matter what industry you're in. If your business profile gets hit with a fact check label, number one, that's not good for you, and your brand reputation is immediately tarnished. People will be more likely to question future things that you say and do. So this doesn't mean that you can't voice your opinions. We just talked about how social awareness is an important factor, but you need to make sure that it reflects your brand's voice and your values, and that makes sure what you're saying is backed up by facts. So you don't want to alienate your brand from loyal followers. It's always important to maintain integrity, and that social listening to who interacts with your brand and your organization is really important. So let's talk about the moral of the story. For now, businesses should really take lessons from the first half of the year as they strategize for the next few months and into 2021. So it's important to be flexible and embrace the unexpected. I know that we have all probably done that this whole year, but it's really important to just keep on that tune because you never know what we're gonna get hit with at any point. The platforms could decide to ban ads or really reduce the number of ads. So yeah, just be flexible and embrace the unexpected. Keep your social media activity and posts and information factual and authentic. And be bold. Don't be afraid to have an opinion if that's what you feel is right for you and your organization and the brand that you're trying to create. I think that's a really important thing to not shy away from the things that you feel need to be said or people need to know about your organization and where they stand on the issues that people care about. So I'm just going to take a second. Oh no, here it's chat. And just look at and read the things I'm missing in the chat. Audrey, your church board at Unity at Chattanooga is setting up training for using social media platforms for our Sunday services. Cool. And other community outreach programs. What services do you offer for this type of training? Well, I think you'll learn a lot here, but at the end of our questions section, I'm going to put my email in here and we can chat offline if you'd like.
The other comment was just a comment about the importance that corporate America can demonstrate, good stewardship in the communities where they're operating. So right now, the hot issue is what's happening socially, and you pointed that out. When corporations, especially from a PR perspective, an advertising perspective, when they show where they stand on these issues, they're going to see their brands go up twofold, especially if that stance is a positive one in favor of where their consumers are coming from.
Right. That's really important. Is that something that you're, thinking of at your organization? Because
Well, from the voter perspective, I'm part of a nonpartisan organization, but with regards to the board that I mentioned earlier with Unity of Chattanooga, we do a lot of outreach programs. And one of the things I admired about a recent article that came out through one of the nonprofit organizations called Chat 2.0. They were listing all the ways from the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce. The Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce put out an ad demonstrating all of the different services that are available to youth and family development. And I passed that on to my board members because I'm the trustee of community outreach, because that demonstrated for me and our board where our monies are going to, because we tied what we bring in, we tied 10% of that amount to community nonprofit organizations that have the same mission that we do as a spiritual organization.
Right.
So that too was another way of having to learn how to use social media to communicate that message. And so you're right. When you're communicating a message that is in tune with what is happening in today's society, the media is going to help you become much more effective in getting that out. And that's why I asked the question. We're getting ready to go through some training because we offer various programs. We just have our newsletter, and those newsletters goes out to people who have submitted their emails to the church. And then, of course, we have our website, and then we have our Sunday live streaming through our website or through Facebook. So it's all about, for us right now, we're looking at how we get our congregants more in tuned and trained in social media.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that, Audrey. I will say some things I heard, you know, I know that when I start with a new organization or business with, really amplifying their and growing their public communications efforts, it's hard to not throw like everything but the kitchen sink
Right.
issue, right?
Right.
What I've learned over the years is if you pick a few things, you're gonna really, first of all, you have to give it time. Pick a few things, give them time, because people I don't think adapt, as quickly as we would want them to. But it sounds like the tactics you're taking, the website maintenance, the brochures, if you print them or the email newsletter, those are all really wonderful ways. And even if they're not creating, the outcomes that you want, they will if you keep it up. So the point I'm trying to make is just keep at it and keep doing those tactics. Maybe next time you're there, ask what's something else that you'd be interested in seeing or hearing from us or receiving from us, and really listen to that. But I'd say those tactics, especially for a congregation setting, seem to really work. They just need some time. You know what I mean? Like first, second, third in-person bulletin or email newsletter may not create what you're hoping it will create, but you're creating this like memory and thought from the members of your congregation month 4, month 5, like, hey, I remember receiving this thing, instead of maybe just throwing it in the trash, which I'm sure not all of them do in your email inbox. They're like, oh yeah, I get this thing, I received this thing, I remember hearing something about, you know what I mean? They're making the connections, but it takes time. But I really like those tactics, because one of the things, like an in-person paper, has really seemed to lost its charm, but I really love them, especially in certain settings. So I'd say just keep at it and don't get frustrated. But if you throw way too much at people, right? So too much information, they're already bombarded with too much information all day. If they TV on, if they have their screens up like I do with like 4 screens and the cell phone and the Apple Watch, you know what I mean? Like they're already bombarded. So just keep sticking with those tactics, because I think that you're really going to see a turnout, but just be patient.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Of course. I like to, people like to, that's why I've talked about the TikTok thing. You don't need to jump whole into new stuff all the time, because it may not work long term.
Right.
And then sometimes with, I've seen someone, a brand jump into TikTok this year and it didn't work out for them, but they put so much energy into trying to make it work that their Facebook and everything else took a hit, when really, like, that's where they need to be, or they need to be equally on all of them. So yeah, just stick with it. It'll work out.
Thank you.
Of course. Does anyone else, have thoughts that they heard, or a question that they want to dive deeper into, as far as, misinformation or not adding another platform, or anything like that for their organization? If not, that's okay. Has anyone sort of experienced, sort of some lessons of their own this year from these key points? All right.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time for discussion. So if anyone has any questions, any more questions for Colleen, this would be the time to ask.
I have a question. How often do you post, or how often should you be out there saying something about your organization?
Yeah.
When does it get to be too much?
This is Ellen from the Heart Gallery, right? I'm sorry, my screen is being funny.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a really great question. And although I'm going to dive really deep into that on the next webinar in January, I think it's a great question. It needs to be generally, well, I think it'll help if I ask this question first. Are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So Facebook, I find, for just regular organic content posting, 3 times a week is a minimum, but not every day. And then there's like really specific times for each platform, which I believe Facebook is, you have to think about human behavior, right? Like it takes me, I'm not the average human being, but it takes me some time to wake up in the morning, get my coffee, and sit down at the desk. But generally, the first thing that I do is start scrolling through my morning feed. So you would want to post to be in that morning scroll feed probably between 8 and 10 a.m. on Facebook and Instagram. If that's when you're going to post for the day, cool. You think about on lunch. What do you do on lunch sometimes? If you're, especially the way things are right now in 2020, people, there's not a lot of going out to lunch together. So they're trying to find that connection through their phone and talking to people on Facebook and Instagram and the other social media channels. So there's a lunchtime 11 to 1 o'clock period as well. And then, I don't know about you all, but after dinner, sometimes I do the same thing, or as I'm falling asleep at night. So there's this strange 8 to 10 p.m. period where posting can get you in front of people. Now you also have to think about age and who you're talking to, who's your business, or who are the people you're trying to interact with on Facebook. So I like to do a mixture throughout the week. Like if I'm going to do 3 times a week, because there's so much other work to do, I like to do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday scenario, and then like do a morning and an afternoon and an evening between that, right? And if diligent about it, then you can plan ahead, but sometimes having that flexibility throughout the week to create a post will help. Does that help answer a question?
Yes, thank you.
Of course. I think there's other pieces that I will, talk about in January about what the post needs to include to be a really good one, because if you don't have links, if you don't have a hashtag, if you don't have a visual, you're kind of missing the point. So if you're going to do it, just go all in on all the things. Oh yeah, I see a hand.
Audrey, yes, that's me. I have a question in terms of when to use the format that you're using in social media. And you just answered it in terms of how often. But how do I approach I guess you might call this person the editor of an electronic newsletter? And she's kind of up there in age, and bless her heart, it's good that she's involved this way. But she sends out email newsletters every day, about 15 a day. And it's stuff and information that pertains to maybe, politics or the voting process or social issues, the elections coming up. And I'm trying to help her understand, you need to break that down into categories. What audience are you sending this information to? Because after a while, getting 15 emails a day every day, people are going to turn that off.
True.
And then there's going to be some really good information that people need to know, but they're going to delete it because they know where it's coming from, and they don't take the time to read it. So how do I approach this person? And now I wish I had invited her to come to this meeting.
Well, I would say maybe not this meeting, but the next one.
Okay.
Next one, I think I had put a slide in here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna do this, New Year thing. Hit refresh on your digital presence. So I'm gonna talk about, and if newsletter I will say, if newsletters specifically is a topic that we would like to dive really deep into, I've got a whole year and 11 more webinars for all of you. So part of that at the end, we'll talk about feedback and how, what topics you all would like to hear. But we're going to talk in January about just, hitting the high points again. We got to start from the top and then dive deeper. So we're going to start with, does your website get continual maintenance? Does it have all of the things that it needs to have, like contact information, etc.? If you have a Facebook account, does it have this, and this? Are you posting at least this many times a day? If you have an Instagram, all of that we're going to go through. And it'll definitely we'll be short on time, I'm sure, because we'll want to talk about a lot of things, but I'm going to go through those really high points, key small pieces of information in that webinar. But
okay.
Yeah, right. Does someone else have a question? I can't see if there's a hand raised.
I do.
Oh yeah, let's hear about it.
This is kind of a nuts and bolts question. We have pretty good engagement on our Facebook page, but I'm wondering how to assess it beyond likes. Often I will post and I'll get a bunch of likes, but I'll realize it's within our theater family. It's people we know are liking, and obviously I'm wanting to reach people outside our circle.
Right.
So I also look at reach, and sometimes reach is limited and sometimes it's huge.
Right.
Are those reasonable ways to assess the impact?
Those are really, well, yes, those are the only ways, that Facebook provides you in its insights to show your impact. But I think we will, I'm listening to all of you and hearing the different webinars that we should do. One of them is probably just on Facebook and just on Instagram, because there's nuances between all of it and we could talk all day about it. So I think that's probably going to be a webinar presence, but there are ways that you can, we can talk about engaging those outside of your regular certain, circle, for sure. One thing, it's hard, I can't show you right now, but a fun tip that I'll give you is, if you look at a post and you click the people who liked your post, you'll see their whole name, all their names, and whether or not they follow your page. It'll tell you, it'll be the screen. I wish I could show you, I'm sorry. But you can, if someone likes your post, but they don't follow your page, you can ask them to follow your page with just a click of a button, and it's so easy. When I worked for the Department of Public Works as their public relations, that's because I didn't have money to do any paid advertising to increase the reach. That's how I got new followers all the time, was going back to each individual post in your feed, clicking the people who liked it. It'll bring up another little screen and it'll tell you whether or not they are following or if they liked your page, and you can invite them to like your page. It's a little trick that I'll give away. And I'll make sure that that's a slide and something that I really show you on that webinar. So what I feel like I'm hearing is the next one I've already, decided what the topic is. We're going to go through the high points of your digital presence and the key factors to, helping people find you, find your business and engage with your business. And then I think we'll go through the different platforms one by one to really, dive deep into them. I think that'll be a good way. Oh yeah, I see a hand raised. Let's do
Hey,
it.
so this might be a topic that's like for further down the line, but I imagine this is going to be something that Julie deals with as well. But we do a lot of two very different types of posts. One, advertising what we're doing and selling tickets.
Okay.
And one, here's what we're doing and here's our outreach programs and here's who we are. And we find that the registration posts rise to the top, and our stuff about like what we do and mission focused and fundraising are not seen as much or engaged with as much. And that's not great necessarily for our image. And so we're trying to, if there's this, you don't have to answer this right now, but it's a topic that we've been talking about a lot internally of how to shape our messaging so that our image as a nonprofit is higher than our image as a place that does classes. And now I have to answer the phone. So,
well, that's bad because I've got a follow-up question, but we'll come back to you because I would love to help you out really quickly with that tidbit. We've already like moved to the questions, but I'll show that cute little thing. So if there's more questions on these topics, you all can shoot me an email, which is, here we go. But just know that I've taken, if anyone has any other suggestions right now for, future topics of conversation, do we like the idea of doing a whole webinar on a newsletter, or definitely the different social media platforms? What makes up a good newsletter could be almost an entire conversation for sure.
Yeah, Colleen, I think that that's smart because that was going to be one of my questions, because Arts Build, and obviously we're all arts organizations, but Arts Build, we use our three main platforms, our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, with Facebook and Instagram being activated the most.
Yeah.
So, and to go with what Joy was asking, my question was, what are the best social media platforms to use for specific posts?
Right.
Because I know Instagram is good at highlighting work and tracking the history of an organization and the great things that come out of it, and Facebook is great for event planning and like Joy said, selling tickets and things like that, and then Twitter's just kind of hanging out there. Like how could a nonprofit or an arts organization use that platform?
Unless you have things to say, here, we'll go through just a quick few high points. Twitter, unless you have something to say every 10 minutes or every hour, it's not for you. Now, I have things to say every 10 minutes and every hour, but they should not be public. Just saying. Facebook really has become an events space. So Joy, I'm glad that you're back on, because what I wanted to address your question is, if you are posting to Facebook and the post that has an event or selling of tickets or, whatever it is attached, those are automatically in Facebook's algorithm going to be higher because they are moving towards that sort of social connection in the way beyond just what are you doing. It's like, come join me at this thing. They're moving towards that. So when you're sharing a post that includes a link to an event on your page, that is, no matter what you do, going to be higher than your here's our mission, here's an artist, this is what they're doing type post. So I would say the mixture then, that's why Facebook created Instagram, because Instagram is that place where you show off your mission through photos, through video, and that's where that's going to really grow because Instagram doesn't have an event sort of space like Facebook does. Does that make sense? So you're not doing anything wrong. I would say it's great that there's like a feed for your organization and for the nonprofit that on Facebook that has this nice mixture, because you also don't want to just bombard people with events, right? Because then they're gonna click mute on you because like you're asking me to come to events, and that's not the only thing I want to see on Facebook. But Facebook algorithms are bringing those up higher and putting them intentionally in front of more eyes. So there's caveats to the metrics because of the algorithms behind what you don't see that Facebook wants to put in front of people. So it's partially just out of your control. But I would say keep up with the mixture because the mixture is really important for the human sort of aspect of it, That was helpful. That's sort of the high point. But again, we'll go into it. So we have a few minutes. Does anyone have any other topics? This is my first one. I'm really excited to do more. But I'd love to hear from you, and maybe, the next couple ones you'll think of things as we talk about what topics you want to hear.
And I would definitely recommend that as we get through the holiday season and start focusing on the new year, that everybody kind of take inventory of, the questions that they have, or maybe map out a plan for your organization so you can come to the next one in January with questions about how to execute that plan.
Right. I will say, because it's not right to assume, but I'm going to assume that everyone has or is thinking of putting together a website. Generally, everyone has a Facebook. I think if you don't, we should talk about why you don't. Instagram's the next best thing after that. And then if there's a platform that people are using beyond that, I'm happy to talk about them. I'm going to assume that those are sort of the high points of what people are using with regard to social and media and digital presence. I don't know if anyone's paying to do Google ads or things like that.
I'd love to talk about YouTube at some point.
I would love to add that to the mix because, after this, we're all going to be on YouTube because Miss Amy's going to put us up on ArtsBuild. It is a really great tool, and as I said earlier, it's still one of the most widely used after Facebook, because then comes Instagram and Google after that. So yeah, I'll add YouTube into that and talk to you about, if you're going to start one, these are the key points that need to be on there. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I personally don't use YouTube, so I know how to use it, but I don't do it on a regular like Facebook. So great, thank you. Any other sort of platforms that people use? Does anyone have interest?
I am curious as to how all these different platforms interconnect. So what is the protocol? Like, for example, you said you don't use YouTube, but when you're recording like this particular webinar, where is it stored? Is it stored in YouTube so that we could come back later and look at this?
Yes, Miss Amy puts it up on ArtsBuild's YouTube.
Yeah. ArtsBuild has its own
YouTube channel.
Yeah,
okay.
the channel. And so we're actually right now working on the best way to organize that because we have a lot of things on deck for activities and meetings and webinars, and so we're trying to make it so it's accessible to all of our partners and the groups that we interact with, so that
Exactly.
it's a little more intuitive to use.
Exactly. Yes. And that's something that I would be interested in learning about the different social media platforms, that protocol,
Okay.
how that works.
And the different capabilities and when you would use, something versus something else, because Facebook has the option to upload videos, but it may not be necessarily the right setting.
Right.
I would say, in total agreement with ArtsBuild putting this up on YouTube. They do so many of them. It's a great space for it.
Right.
So, does anyone have a business Pinterest? Is that probably not? Yeah, that's probably a good thing. It's crazy. I mean, I use it personal life, but it's a lot of work. So, well, if no one else has questions, I will get to work right away preparing January's. I'm really excited, and I'm so thankful that you all were here with me today for this first one and asked such great questions, and listened along all about 2020. And I really, 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 really hope that the rest of y'all's 2020 is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colleen. And everybody, please do mark your calendar for the fourth January, the fourth Thursday in January. We'll meet back with Colleen in 2021. So she's got a great little one of her things behind her. Tell them what it says, Colleen.
It says, I'm not buying a 2021 planner until I see a trailer.
It's in a movie trailer.
Not doing it.
We need to see the movie trailer of 2021 before we buy a day planner. So, but thank you again. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you, for some reason, did not receive the email for the update for this this particular meeting, let me know so that I can make sure that we've got everything in good order. But with that said, everybody have happy holidays, and we will see you in the new year, if not before.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you in 2021.